All right, everybody, we are back again for this next edition of the Rubio Sports Podcast on this October 9th, 2014. And I swear to God, this weather's going to drive me crazy, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. Homecoming week. There's lots of stuff going on campus.
It's making everybody...
Drives me nuts.
When the cursed student involvement.
Yeah.
I hate the SU. The first week of school and homecoming week. I hate the SU.
Yeah,
hate.
it's not good.
And you are
Underlined
sitting on
3
the third
times.
floor.
Exactly.
Just to get away from the madness. But seriously, guys, I'll never understand this weather. We're in October. It's freaking 95 degrees outside.
I love it.
I think it's nice.
I hate it.
I think it's
I
nice.
hate it. I hate that it's overcast and humid one day, 90 degrees the next day, and then perfect 72 the next day. Can we get some consistency?
And now it's like 95 outside with a glaring sun.
It's good football weather.
It is good
No,
football.
good
Good football weather for a good team, but not
No.
good football.
Fresno State should love it.
Oh, I know. Fresno State fit right at home with that crazy humidity. But thanks for joining us, guys, for this podcast. We got a lot to talk about. So thanks for clicking on and joining us on our YouTube page and our Facebook page for watching us. I'm the sports editor, Danny Webster, joined by all 3 senior staff writers, Jordan Aguilar, Randy Favors, and Jesse Granger. So, guys, let's start. Do we even want to talk about football at this point?
I want to talk about football.
You want to? Because I know you were statted up for this. So
Oh, man, I am.
Just replay last week's because it's the same.
I know. Just,
Exactly.
just pause the video right now. Go back to where we talked last week about how bad this team is, and you can kind of fill in the blanks. But UNLV did play a game last week, and it was not a good game. 33-10 over San Jose State, who most of it, well, mainly me, considered San Jose State to be the worst team in the Mountain West. Now we are a week later, and we can now say UNLV is the worst team in the Mountain West after that embarrassing performance against San Jose State, a team that, like we talked last week, put 500 yards against Reno last week and only scored 10 points. This team somehow scores 33 on UNLV, and UNLV had no answer for San Jose State at all. Blake Decker with another struggling day. He left with an arm injury. Nick Sherry came in, God help us all, and had probably one of the worst quarterback performances I've ever seen in my life, going 5 of 18. But the grand scheme of things, UNLV is now back at home for the first time in a month. They are 1-5. They need to win 6 out of their last 7 to be bowl eligible. And the way the schedule's looking, guys, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen.
They might. They'll be lucky if they win one of those.
Yeah,
I really don't even. That's completely, just being completely honest, I don't even see them winning another game. Maybe Hawaii,
I don't
even think that's
I don't have a game where I see them, okay, that's the game they're going to win, but I think they'll win another game. You know what I mean? Like, just based on, it's just going to happen.
In all honesty, this team is worse than those 2-win teams from a couple seasons ago, in my eyes.
That's amazing because this team is more talented than any of
This
those
is
teams.
like I said last week, there's something going on we don't know about because the talent is there. There's an internal problem, I can guarantee it, that we don't know about. It has to be because there's too much talent on the team to not even win a game. You beat Northern Colorado Panhandle Tech University by 2 points. I mean, come on, guys. 1 point. It's even worse. This team is lost.
It's not even that they're losing. It's just
They're losing.
they're falling flat on their face after the first drive. Like Jesse said last week, this is the best first drive team in the country.
And I'm
And
completely
again, like, it's so funny that we talked about it. We talked about it for 10 minutes about how they're so awesome at first drives and like turn the game on. All right, first drive, they're going down the field, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like we like literally typed the script out.
I'm completely
And they
convinced
followed
that
it.
they're scripting plays like you said. There's just no way they're not.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not.
Like we said before going on the air, if they're scripting plays, why don't they just run the same script over and over again?
Because
The
the
defense
defense
is what you're gonna run.
Well, thank you. I know that, but I'm just saying if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
The
It
problem
will be
is
broke by the second quarter.
It's already been broke after the first drive.
Yeah.
the problem is there's one player on this team that's more talented than everyone else on the entire offensive side of the ball combined, and that's Devontae Davis, and he's been injured for 2 games with what seems to be nothing, and he seems to be fine, and then he just shows up in street clothes. It's really weird.
Yeah.
I have no idea why Devontae Davis isn't playing. He should be playing. In my opinion, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I see him at practice. He doesn't look injured. And all week how it talks about how he's day-to-day, and then if you're day-to-day and you're a game-time decision, you don't show up in street clothes. Like, you knew ahead of time you weren't going to play. So obviously they're downplaying his injury, or he's upplaying how bad it really is. I'm not sure, but without him on the field, they have nothing on offense. Devontae Boyd is their only threat, and he looks like a hell of a player, and he's going to be amazing for 4 years here. No matter who, he's got two quarterbacks that don't know what they're doing back there. Both, and either one of them just toss it up there, and he goes and gets it. He was the only bright spot of the entire game. But he's all by himself out there. He needs Devontae Davis on that other side to take some of the pressure off him so that they can't focus on either one of them. And I said it last week, and even after Sherry looked terrible, he didn't look that much worse than Decker. It's not the quarterbacks. These quarterbacks aren't good, but the rest of the team, the offensive line is an embarrassment.
Atrocious.
The offensive line is an embarrassment. They are an embarrassment.
I think we are now seeing how big of an impact losing Cameron Jefferson was on that left side, because the majority of those sacks are coming off that left side, the left inside, right at the A-gap. So that's you're seeing losing a veteran presence on that offensive line is doing for UNLV right now.
The only time in the history of UNLV that they've had two offensive linemen named to the preseason all-conference team, ever in the history of the school, they've never had two. They've actually only had one offensive lineman named, I think, 3 times, and they've never had two. This was supposed to be the best offensive line ever, and they are horrible. Keith Whiteley isn't bad. He's not a bad running back. He has to make 3 guys miss just to get back to the line of scrimmage every time he gets the ball.
Yeah. This was supposed to be the strength. This is the one thing we talked about that was going to be the number one thing in UNLV football's team was the offensive line. They were veterans. They had experience. They knew what it was like to play in the big games, and in the smallest non-television market, low attendance games, they still fall flat on their face. Embarrassment is the best word. It's the best word I could think of, because you can't give me the excuse that they don't know each other, that they haven't played with one another, that they don't know each other's footwork, that they don't know where they're supposed to be. It is a complete embarrassment. It's atrocious. It's every other adjective you could ever want to use that describes bad play.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just hard to think that at the end of last year, we were sitting in this office and looking at their schedule and seeing, all right, which games are they going to need to win to get to a bowl game? And to where they are at this point. I mean, this team has taken 100 steps backwards from where they were last year. And they're not even competing in any of these games. I mean, let alone trying to win a game, at least competing. I mean, they're getting blown out by 21 points a game.
They're keeping up in the first half, and the defense is bad.
They're keeping up in the first quarter.
No, the first half. I mean, they've been hanging with teams in the first half. And I feel bad for the defense, as bad as the stats look on defense. We knew rushing was going to be a problem. Rushing defense was going to be a problem coming into this game. They're the worst run defense team in the entire country. There's one team worse than them, and
Is it in the
it's like
Mountain
New
West?
Mexico State or something. I don't know. But San Jose State only averaged 113 rushing yards a game, and they ran for 277 yards on 56 attempts. That's like Navy numbers. That's like a team that if you saw those numbers, they ran 56 times for 2. It's like, oh, they must run a triple option. They never pass the ball. It's San Jose State. All they do is pass the ball.
Yes.
They just decided, we're going against UNLV. We're going to run the crap out of the ball today. Tyler Irvin came into the game only averaging 5 yards a carry on only 18 carries the whole season. He ran for 147 yards. He averaged 12.1 yards per carry. 12 yards per carry for a guy who had 18 carries going into the season. This defense...
And it wouldn't surprise me if the bulk of them came in the second half.
Yeah.
Well, I said it last week. Teams are gonna. Their game plan is gonna be to run it down UNLV's throat, and the offense isn't. UNLV's offense doesn't help at all when they're going 3 and out, trying to give these games away, keeping the defense on the field.
They're 115th in time of possession in the country.
So 119
Out of 125, they're 115th.
As much as you want to blame the defense, yes, they've been bad, but the offense is giving
Exactly.
this team no help.
Exactly. You know you have a bad defense. You have to give them some kind of time to rehydrate and recuperate and get some time on the sidelines to recover. You're out there. I mean, I would love to see the average time per drive for UNLV after the first series.
Yeah.
What is it? 34 seconds? Like literally, their average drives. Defense is out there. out of a 15 minutes a quarter in football. So out of a 60-minute game, they're on the field 50 minutes. Probably, is that fair to say?
No.
48.
Nah, it's like 38 minutes a game.
Last week they were almost on it for 20 minutes.
It sounds 38 to 20 doesn't sound that. Oh, that's not that lopsided, but it really, really, really is. When you have like a 6-minute advantage in time possession, that's huge, and they're tripling that.
Yeah.
This run defense, Jordan's always got the awesome stats. Here's a stat for this. Their run defense averages 292 yards per game allowed. They average 292 yards a game. Louisville has only allowed 58 more yards than that this season in all their games together. So UNLV allows more per game almost than Louisville has on this entire football season, and we're halfway done with the
See,
season.
the problem is teams know that, so even if a team does want to pass, they don't need to. There's no point.
And they've sucked that bad against the run, and the teams that they've win against
aren't
running teams, other than Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois is 16th in the nation in rushing, but San Diego State is 53rd, Houston is 77th, and San Jose State is 83rd, and that's after their 277 yards against UNLV. The schedule coming up, they do play some teams that run the ball. You got Utah State doesn't really run the ball that much, but now with Chuck Keaton out there, we're going to decide to run the hell out of it. But New Mexico is 4th in the nation in rushing. They'll probably run for 500 yards on UNLV, I predict. At least 500.
They scored 42 last year against UNLV.
Air Force is 10th. Air Force is 10th in the nation, and BYU is 30th. And Taysom Hill's out for the season, but they're still going to run it.
Yeah.
So they've been this bad. They're the worst team in the entire nation at stopping the run, and that's against nobody that runs. And now, the rest of their schedule, they just got a bunch of teams that just love to run the ball coming up. It's not good.
This is not going to be a nice stretch.
It looks so
But
ugly.
hey, at the end of the day, all that matters is the Reno game, right?
That's going to be the Super Bowl.
No,
That's
true.
Reno might beat UNLV by 50, 60 points.
You know what?
They don't care. They'll
The
just-
people in
they'll
Reno
pour it.
are talking the same way that we are about UNLV. That team sucks. Bad. They don't suck as bad as UNLV, but that team is not good.
Isn't it amazing that this conference is still garbage?
They're terrible.
Even after
Well, they keep getting
even
worse.
as bad as UNLV is, this conference is still pretty garbage.
Everyone thought this conference was like a couple years ago when Boise was, when they first entered the conference, and TCU was really good and Utah was really good. Then they left and they continue to be good. And the teams we brought in to replace them, Fresno State, Boise State, just have completely fallen off from where they used to be. This conference is in bad shape, and they're probably only going to get
Is it
worse.
too late to get TCU back?
That'd be nice. They'd go undefeated and not have a game within 30 points on it.
I would. That's probably right. That's probably very true.
All right, guys, let's bravely talk about this Fresno State game coming up this week. Friday is tomorrow, actually. The game is at 7 o'clock at Sam Boyd Stadium. Again, this is the first home game for UNLV in pretty much a month. And then they go back on the road to Utah State before 2 more against New Mexico and Air Force. So, again, another must-win territory for UNLV. They're probably, at this point, you probably throw out the bowl projections out the window. Especially... Not a chance?
Not a chance.
No, 0% chance. This is Bobby Hauck trying to save his job now.
Yeah.
That's what the rest of the season's about.
Amazing how we're talking about that again.
Well, he just got an extension,
Amazing how we're talking about that.
and he's going to win 2 games. This
That's
year,
how.
so-
But
I'm not saying it's bad.
I mean, you can look at.
I'm not questioning it.
There's 30 colleges in the country that gave coaches extensions last year that are
and won
getting
one
ready,
game the year before.
They're getting ready to fire
the
him.
next year.
No,
How much
ready
is
to fire him because maybe they're under 500. They're not 1-11.
Brady Hoke's about to go 1-11 with
He's not gonna go
19
1-11.
5-star athletes.
He's not going to go 1-11.
Brady Hoke
And
has
as bad as
one
they-
recruit. Brady Hoke has one recruit that has more talent than the entire UNLV roster, and UNLV can hang with Michigan.
No, they couldn't.
He's the worst
You know
coach
they
in the
couldn't.
history of coaching.
You know that's not true. Michigan
Brady
beat them by
Hoke-
60 with you at quarterback.
My point is, I think I can hang. my point is that this isn't like it's like something specific to UNLV. This is college football. That's
No.
how it is.
Okay, it's how it is when you're at a program like Michigan and you get an extension, and then the next year you go 5-7 or 3-8 at the worst.
Going
3-8.
3-8 at Michigan is worse than going 0-12 at UNLV.
That's true.
Okay, they play the level of competition they play is even the Big Ten is the worst ever. But the level of competition they play. Why are we even talking about Michigan?
I don't know.
Like the point is, you don't like. We just gave this guy an extension, paid him all this money after one good season in his 4 or 5, 6 years here, whatever it's been, and he's back to winning 1 or 2 games a year.
And the reason they have
And
to
he's
do
going to win
that,
1 or 2 games again next year. 1 or 2.
the reason
games
they have
after.
to, the UNLV athletic department is in a horrible position because you get a coach. If he does bad, you have to fire him. If he does good, you're still screwed because he's leaving. So what I think UNLV, what their position on it is, I think is we got to butter these guys up even when they're sucking. That way, that way they won't just bounce on us as soon as they have a good season. I think what their thought process was, crap, Houck had a good year. If he has another good year next year, he's gone. There's no way he stays with us. So let's just drive a dump truck over to his house, put a bunch of money in his face, and that way when that subject comes around, we can. Hey man, you had 2 losing seasons. We still stuck with you. We paid you all. It's the same thing with Dave Rice. When you're a small school like this, you are in a horrible position. You can't blame UNLV for giving these guys extensions because if they don't, and if you tell Bobby Houck, no, we're not giving you an extension. Prove that you can win 3 straight seasons. Give me a percentage chance if Bobby Houck has 3 straight winning seasons that he's here for a 4th.
That's true.
0%
I would
chance.
say zero.
I did mention this at the end of last year when the contract was approved through the Board of Regents and Houck got his extension. I mentioned this. The fact, exactly what you pointed out, UNLV is in a tough position. If they did have another winning season, I'm not going to say Bobby would have left, but there's a good chance he would have. And dang, your phone is going off.
Dude, I'm busy.
You're always busy. But I will say, though, that is the state of college athletics. UNLV had to pay Bobby Houck. It is pretty much what we've come to. Because they only have one year left on this deal. If they didn't give him the extension, what are you going to do? Fire him just because he only had 1 winning season? If you think about it,
Well,
if they did give him the extension, they were going to let him go. If only after 1 winning season, I still say they would have given him an extension.
I don't know.
Maybe
They're in a horrible position.
Maybe the argument can be turned into the extension is premature now that we look back on it.
I don't think it is.
Of course it was.
I don't think it was.
At the end of
You have
this
to.
year, after you see what he did, if he had another winning season, then you throw money at him.
No, because then
He's not
there's
going to
then
leave
there's
after
20
2
others.
6-win seasons. He didn't do anything. It's 6 wins. Who wants him? A crappier program than us, or a program just as crappy as us?
That has a ton more money.
That's not always what it's
Central
about. You're gonna
Florida
get more
almost
exposure.
outbid us for Dave Rice. Central Florida.
South Florida.
Or South Florida.
That's even
South
worse.
Florida's not even a real school. They're like an imaginary
They're
place.
they're in a different state, a different city, a more expensive city.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
They have more money than UNLV.
and kind of go back to what you said.
But you get more
I'm sorry.
exposure in Las Vegas. Out of anywhere. Out of Tampa. Where do you get more exposure?
Not
Vegas
in
or
football.
Tampa?
Not
Yeah.
in football.
If you do well enough, dude, everybody wants to come here. Everyone wants to come here.
Tell that to the recruits that look at this football team, man.
Well, that's because the football team's not good. If the football team won 7, 8, 9 games consistently, I don't necessarily think Bobby would bounce immediately,
I
especially
do.
if we threw money at him.
I
Then
do.
you get recruits coming in. Then you can establish at least something, some sort of prominence.
We disagree there. I think Bobby Houck would leave immediately if he had like a 10-win season. Gone. 100% chance.
He'd go flame out somewhere else.
Get paid.
But to that point, though, if UNLV does go ahead and fire Bobby at the end of the year, after giving him that extension, whoever is coming in, whether it be a June Jones or whether it be a Jim Fossil, whoever it may be,
Brady Hook.
Brady
They
Hook,
can't
there we go.
afford. They can't afford any of those 3 guys because
And that's the thing. And also, they're not going to look at this job with as much certainty as one would think because they're like, well, dang, they just gave Bobby an extension. If I don't do well for at least 1 or 2 years, they're going to can me too.
that's the life of football. But the thing is, everyone's like, fire Bobby Houck. Who are we going to bring in? It's not like
That's what I'm saying.
We're not Texas. We don't have a list of awesome candidates coming in. Any coach we bring in is not going to be better than Bobby
That's
Houck.
why it annoys the hell out of me when people go on Twitter and are like, we need to axe the football program. We need to fire Bobby Houck. You can't fire Bobby after 1 winning season. You can't, because who are you going to bring in here? And it's much easier to say, hey, let's axe the football program. It's not that easy.
They're not
high
getting.
school ranks.
They're not getting rid of the football program.
Why would no?
I mean,
that's not
put them in, and people are like, at least move them to FCS. What is that going to do?
No.
Why
This
not
team-
go to
this
the high
school's-
school ranks to go get a coach? How that wouldn't be hard.
Tony Sanchez?
I'm 100% sure Tony Sanchez wouldn't take this job.
I'm pretty
There's
sure-
other schools
I'm
out
pretty
there
sure
that
he
would
wouldn't
give
either.
him a
I
better.
played
I would-
for Mount
Okay,
Olive.
but what about
I would
what
love
about
a
going to Southern California, Arizona, Utah? There's
I think-
high schools all around the
I would
country.
love
There's
a
a high
local
school
coach.
coach that would love a crack at a college opportunity. And how do you? And if he flames out and does terrible, it can't get any worse.
Lane Kiffin.
I think no. It can't get any worse. So I mean,
I think Sanchez,
Which is
could do a
very
good job
sad,
at this
isn't it?
program.
absolutely.
I think he could, too.
But that's why I'm
I
saying
think it would be
when
awesome.
people say that who we're going to get, there's plenty of coaches jumping at the bit to coach UNLV. It just might not be at the
But-
college level.
but then-
there's plenty of prominent, successful high school coaches that would love to try their hand at college. And if they fail, it can't get any worse.
But then you go into the argument: do you want UNLV with a proven coach where you can almost guarantee success now?
We're not going to get a
Or do
proven
you-
coach. We just talked about that.
But I'm just saying, because people are going to go ahead and say, "Hey, we should get a guy like Fossil or a June."
But
Jones."
they can't
But
afford
they-
to
Right,
pay those guys.
exactly my point, which is why you go get a
But-
Toby
but
Sanchez
would anybody
or
want-
somebody from freaking who I don't even know who's good anymore.
Don't get me wrong.
De La
I-
Salle.
don't-
Football.
don't
Yeah,
get-
sure.
Don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you on that. The only thing is, do people want another rebuilding project? Bobby
We're
took.
already in one.
This school
We
is
have
a
the
rebuilding
talent here.
project.
There is no.
But how much
it's
longer
not
is this
rebuilding.
rebuilding?
Like it's not rebuilding. Not long because the talent's here. It's not like we're rebuilding from the bottom and we have 0-star
Well,
recruits and 1-star
technically.
recruits. We have the talent here. Yeah, Devontae Davis is going to be gone, but you have a junior transfer or junior college quarterback coming back. You have a rising star in Devontae Boyd. You have other receiving cores. You have a running back core. You have a defense that's going to be better. It's not like you're starting over with or like you're just starting a program like at Georgia Southern or something.
Then why do people want Bobby fired?
Because he has done nothing with the talent here, so why not bring someone else in that can at least try? It
He's
can't
done
get
it.
any worse. It cannot get any worse.
He took him to a bowl game last year. He hasn't done
That's
enough.
what I'm saying. People
game.
want to look at last year. And
A bowl game is nothing for most schools, but
No,
for this
but-
school in
but
the
this
history of
school-
a bowl game is
but
a
this-
pretty
And then,
damn
the next
big
year,
deal.
and then the next year you win one game
Yeah.
with virtually the same
It's
team
horrible.
coming back.
It's
Besides,
horrible, but he
besides
hasn't
the front
done
seven.
nothing. He hasn't done
Besides the
nothing.
front seven, he's
But I
done
mean, to win
nothing.
more
He hasn't
games in
recruited
1 year
anybody
than you
of
did the
interest.
first 3
He
weeks.
hasn't recruited anybody of interest?
A big time play. Who?
I don't know. Tim Cornette's the all-time leading rusher in the history of UNLV.
Okay.
He's probably
One
a top
guy.
3. Devontae Davis is probably going to finish as the best receiver. So let's see. In his 4 years here, he's got the best running back in the history of UNLV, the best
That's
wide
debatable.
receiver in the history of UNLV, and
That's
Caleb
debatable also.
Herring was pretty good too.
Okay. Did you really Caleb Herring
Caleb-
after one good year?
He
He's
was-
one of the
Caleb
best
Herring had the
recruits.
most efficient.
Oh my god! I was about to be like,
But
get
but
out of
Caleb
this
Herring's
podcast.
decent.
But he was
Brett
better than Nick Sherry.
Brett Boyko has been a great left tackle, and
Okay, you act like he's a
in 4
great
years
recruiter.
he's rewritten the entire history book of UNLV in rushing and receiving. He's done a little something.
I think people sometimes just forget that like this isn't the SEC where you lose
Yes.
a really good player
That's another
and
thing.
you just replace him with a really good player. When you lose a Tim Cornette or a Caleb Herring
There
or someone with
is
experience,
a rebuilding
Can we stop putting
process.
Caleb Herring as like a really good player?
but
One
he was
year
a he was a
decent.
really good quarterback last year.
He was
Last
he
year.
had a good season.
Well, it sure as hell wasn't an
What is it?
aberration.
But I think
Yeah,
that's
it
when,
was.
when you
Caleb was
lose
no
those
aberration.
guys, you don't just have guys that you
How
can
is he
plug
not
in
an
right away.
aberration?
You take a look at the film that Caleb Herring played in 2011 compared to 2013 and tell me that he was not a different player.
It's still an average. One year.
He was thrown into the fire against Central Michigan, led them on a comeback. This is not the Caleb Herring we saw from 2 years ago. This is a Caleb Herring that actually took chances and utilized the weapons around him. That was not an aberration.
I don't think they make a bowl
We'll
game
agree to
last
disagree.
year. I don't think they make a bowl game last year without Caleb Herring as
Thank
a
you.
quarterback.
They're sure as hell not making it with Nick Sherry.
No.
They sure as no is not the case, but I feel like we got way off topic.
yeah,
Just a bit.
it was a good talk. This football team.
It was good. It was good.
But that's like raw emotion and passion, though. You know what I mean? This football team makes us angry, emotional, sad, mad, pissed. I mean,
But I mean, we had this talk at the beginning of the season. This was a team that was projected to at least contend for a division title and play in the conference title game. This conference is that bad.
They
and,
felt-
and the fact that they have only won 1 out of 6 games they've played so far, with the bulk of their conference schedule coming up with very winnable games on their plate, it does not bode well.
which
And-
just furthers my point of why you need change. And don't be afraid to go to the high school ranks because it can't get any worse. When we go into Fresno this weekend and get smacked by 30,
We're not
at home
going
on
into
home
Fresno.
ground,
They're coming.
I mean,
Fresno's
we play Fresno this weekend and get smacked at home by 30. And then when we go to New Mexico, or we have Air
Well, if we lose
Force.
to New Mexico and Air Force, then I think there's really got to be some conversation.
Dude, they're losing to New Mexico and Air Force.
Guaranteed.
They're losing to New
I
Mexico.
mean, if that's
I'm
my
more
point.
confident. I'm more confident that they'll lose to New Mexico and Air Force than I am that they'll lose to Fresno State.
That's
they have a
my
better chance
point.
in that game.
That's my point. I'm saying this now, and it may be unpopular, but once in a couple of weeks when they lose to New Mexico and they lose to Air Force and they give up 600 yards of rushing offense, then you're going to say, oh yeah, Bobby needs to go. It's just
That's
time
what
for
I'm saying.
change.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
time for a change. He's had 5 years. How long has it been? 5 years?
This is his 5th year.
5th year? That's 5 years. He has one season.
Well, this is
One.
his 4th year, right?
This is
He had 3 straight 2-win seasons, the bowl game, and now the
Okay,
season.
right.
Okay, so he's had 12 wins in 5 years. Okay, 12 in 5 years, 13 if you want to count this one this year.
Everything.
Okay,
Is-
it's time to don't be afraid to take risks because it can't get that much worse. That's my only point. You want to keep him for the rest of the year? I'm all for that. You don't fire a coach mid-season.
But don't get me wrong. But like I said, I'm fine with risk, and I'm fine with bringing somebody from the high school ranks, probably like a Tony Sanchez, who would come in here and play.
Tony Sanchez would not take this job.
I'm not saying he would. Let me be clear.
You
I'm
said
not
someone
saying
like
to take the
Tony
job.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Like a high school, like a prominent high school
This
coach.
job is a horrible job to have.
Yes.
Most of the high schools you're talking about have better facilities and have a better
There's coaches out there that
program
want
around
to take
them.
that challenge. I can guarantee
Better than
you.
UNLV. Bishop Gorman has a better weight room than UNLV, a better stadium.
We're not saying
better
just
facility.
Tony Sanchez. I'm
Okay,
talking about
De La Salle, all these teams in California, they got indoor practice facilities.
take any top 25 head coach from a high school right now. There's one of those guys. I guarantee you would be willing to take on the challenge.
I'm not saying.
And that's all you need is someone to take a risk on.
So these guys are awesome in high school, which is obviously a step below college. So you're just hoping that they'll translate up.
Some
right?
coaches
now,
do.
Now, what's the step in between high school and what? FCS, Division II. Who's the all-time winningest coach in the history of Division II football?
Bobby Houck.
What does that have to do with anything?
Bobby Houck.
That has nothing
You're not
to do
going to
with
get a
Bobby
better
Houck.
coach than Bobby Houck at this school. Bobby Houck knows how to coach football.
Obviously, we see that with 12 wins in 5
This
years.
is a tough program to win with, man.
I understand. My
12
point
wins
is-
isn't bad when it's all relative. If you had 12 wins in 5
years?
seasons at frickin' Alabama or LSU,
You
you
would be
suck.
canned.
Get the hell out. UNLV, he's par for the course.
Dude,
Yeah.
no.
And
And
like-
that's not par for the course at any school. I don't care if you're Northern Colorado.
And like I said, I am all for if UNLV decides to make a change. I'm all for going with somebody who's new, who is yet to coach in the Division I level. The only problem is that you're going to have that thought in the back of your mind if this coach, even if it is a new coach, that doesn't succeed right out of the gate or doesn't at least win 4 or 5 games in a season. They just gave Bobby an extension. They're going to fire him. That's as short of a leash as you can get.
Look, he's probably not going to get fired at the end of the year. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. He's probably not going to get fired.
Is he going to
after
serve out his
extension.
extension?
I will say this,
No.
though, because me and you were
He's
kind
not
of
gonna
disagreeing.
say
I will say this. If Bobby Houck were to get fired, I prefer a top high school coach over some washed-up guy who's just looking. Because if you get a guy like June Jones, if he has one successful season, gone. 100% chance.
Maybe
I'll
two.
bet
Maybe two.
my house that I don't even own on if you bring in some guy who's just down on his luck, who's been fired from a couple jobs and just needs a job.
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, a guy like that. Obviously, Lane Kiffin would never come here, but a guy like that, because they're just using UNLV as a stepping stone to get to that job they really want.
Which is
So-
okay, though.
No, it
It's okay.
isn't. Not when you're trying to build a program.
Yeah, but you're getting that national exposure. If say he leads UNLV to 11-1 season, say he's here for 2 years and you go 11-1 and 10-2, and he bounces, someone else is going to want to take this job.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. But yeah, I know what
you
you're saying.
understand my point. You get that national exposure.
But I prefer a high school coach or somebody, maybe an assistant at a lower, like at a Mountain West school or something, some really good offensive coordinator, over a guy who's stepping down. You know what I mean? I prefer a guy who's stepping up to UNLV than a guy who's stepping down to UNLV.
Yeah.
I agree.
Me too.
Well, okay then. It's 1:45. Good stuff, guys.
That's the football.
By the way, I just want to make it clear for those who are watching, we are not saying Bobby Houck has been fired or anything of this. I hate when I have to make those clarifications.
Yeah.
Because whenever I say
He's not
something,
been fired. There's no word that he's been fired. He probably won't be
We're just
fired.
looking at how bad
We're
this
just
team
looking
is
ahead and
and-
saying,
Yeah.
what if?
yes, thank you, Randy. That's fine. But I just hate when I have to make clarifications like that, and people are like, "Oh my God, you said this." No, I did not say that. We did not say that Bobby was getting fired at the end of the year. We don't know that. I'm sure nobody knows that at this point. But let's actually, you know what? Let's move on because I feel.
You want to do predictions for the Fresno?
Yeah, let's
State?
just do predictions. I think we've talked about football ad nauseum here. We kind of need to move on. So I'm not even going to look at the line. There's no point betting on this because
10.5.
10. All right then. Well, 10.5. Fresno State wins unanimous.
Yep.
Yep.
I've got Fresno State 27, UNLV 14.
I had Fresno 34, UNLV 14.
That sounds about right. I'll go 33. No, well, they just 34-10 Fresno.
I'll go 31-14 Fresno State.
It's all about the same. I have them a little closer. Fresno State's not very good.
Over under.
The one thing about Fresno State, though, that I will say is they have improved every game. The first couple games, like against USC, they looked like they were going to lose every game this
Same with
season.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
And Nebraska, they looked bad.
programs,
Then
so-
Utah, they played Utah tough. They ended up losing, but I watched the game and it was a little closer than the score indicated. And then they've looked good against Mountain West opponents.
Mexico and San Diego State.
Yeah, they beat New Mexico, and I actually thought I predicted New Mexico to win that game, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
I thought New Mexico would go in there and beat them.
I thought SDSU. I thought San Diego State was going to beat them.
And then they took San Diego State out fairly easily, 24-13, and San Diego State's got a ton of talent.
San Diego State might have beaten them if they didn't have those 10 blown calls like the Mountain West
Yeah,
did the other day.
we talked a ton about coaching today, and Tim DeRuyter for Fresno is a really, really, really good coach.
Yeah, he is.
I like him a lot, and that's what you want in a team that loses all their players. Fresno State lost all their players similarly to UNLV, and they looked like crap, but they've looked better every single game. They've looked a little bit better, and they're undefeated in Mountain West, and they'll probably stay undefeated Friday.
Yeah. Well, that is on tomorrow at 7 o'clock at Sandpoint Stadium. Again, UNLV playing at home for the first time in a month. Over under 12,000 for the attendance.
Under.
Way under. Way under.
It's homecoming.
I think
so
Fresno
it'll-
State fans will.
I think it's homecoming, so
9.
They're gonna count.
I could see-
They're gonna count the king and queen.
and Fresno State is pretty close. And I've never been there, but from everything I've heard, Fresno is a
It's terrible.
crap hole. So,
I've been there.
and all you
I
Fresno
witnessed-
people out there watching, I'm sorry about your city. It's a piece of crap, but
Come to Vegas.
Try.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a ton of Fresno people come out here for the weekend.
Try walking through Fresno, California
Nope.
at 12:30 at night on the way home from Bulldog Stadium.
Not
It's
gonna
the
do that.
scariest experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
No lights.
9.5.
I'll go 11.5.
11.5.
Wait, what?
Over under on the
Attendance. What's your prediction for attendance?
Right around 10.
Yeah,
10.
9.5. Too.
We'll go with 10.
11.5. So if it's above 10, I win.
And that's. I feel like Fresno State fans could probably make it like 12, 13.
I feel like there's.
I
I
don't
I don't
feel
think
like
there's
there
that
could be
many
a lot.
Fresno State fans.
There's a lot of people in Fresno that want to get out of there.
I feel like there could be a lot of Fresno State fans.
Yeah, and it's homecoming, so there's gonna be students there that could care less if the team wins or not. They're just there to
Party.
meet up with everybody, go up to the party afterwards. So
Yeah.
And it's a Friday night for Fresno State fans. So come in Friday, party all weekend.
yep.
They'll be here.
Just don't drink and drive. Only you
Drink responsibly.
Only you can prevent forest fires, and that was not related to drinking at all.
All right.
All right. Let's move on to men's soccer, guys. I feel like we talked
Some
about
teams that aren't forest fires.
Yes, UNLV men's soccer is not, because they started off conference season off on a hot note, winning 3-0 over Grand Canyon at home this past weekend. And we were talking about this last week, Randy, about the whole goalie controversy. There isn't now, because Ryan Harding was a beast on Sunday.
Yeah, he had his 5th shutout of the year. He earned Western Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Week. The controversy or non-controversy that was Abdul Rodriguez started the first half of the Riverside game. And I just think that was a tactic by Ryerson to tell Harding, he needs to play a little bit better. He had given up 9 goals in his last 3 games after giving up, I think, 3 in his first 6. So, but Rodriguez isn't ready. I mean, he plays pretty well in net. I was at practice the other day. He does a lot of small things that still need to be worked on that makes him unready for Division I soccer. But great win against Grand Canyon. They beat them 3-0. They handled them. And UNLV's on a 2-game win streak heading into the biggest game of the year thus far. And I'm talking about bigger than UMBC and bigger than Irvine. And it's with Seattle, who's hosting the WAC tournament this year. They are projected to win the WAC this year. And this game is in Seattle. And UNLV's been looking forward to this game for a while now. So, this is going to be a big game this weekend. And it's going to say a lot. Seattle is currently the first team out of the top 25 in the NSCAA.
Yeah, they're receiving votes.
They're receiving the most votes out of any team that's outside the top 25. So, it's going to be a tough game. They got Seattle Friday, and then they play at Utah Valley on Sunday. So they have one day to travel, and and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game.
And you said you were talking to Harding this week. You said Utah Valley's.
Yeah, I did. I talked to Ryan Harding, the goalkeeper, on yesterday, on Wednesday, and he said that Utah Valley would be a tougher challenge for them than Seattle, just because of the style of play and the scheme. Utah Valley is a bunch of big, physical kids, and that's what gives UNLV a lot of. Listen, UNLV, they have a good team, but they are very small. They are not a big team at all. And they struggle with big, physical, fast teams, and that's what Utah Valley is. A lot of their players are missionaries, Mormon missionaries, so they're redshirt freshmen at 21 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. You know, a lot of our seniors are 21, 22 years old. So these kids are big, physical. A lot of their seniors are going to be 23, 24 years old. It's going to be a tough game for UNLV, but they need it. You know, they already got the points from Grand Canyon. They're already 2 points ahead of both Seattle and Utah Valley because Seattle and Utah Valley tied last weekend. So they're already 2 points up on the division. They get this win against Seattle and lose against Utah Valley. They need to win one of these games.
Yeah.
Preferably Seattle.
Preferably.
Because they get Utah Valley. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, preferably against Seattle because they're going to be the better team that UNLV plays, even though UNLV matches up with them better. So, but it's good. Utah Valley game is going to be tough. A lot of people I don't think are expecting it to be a tough game because Utah Valley is not a known team, but the game is going to be pretty tough.
I actually agree with Harding that Seattle's a better matchup. I think Seattle's. You talked about how good their goalie was last season a lot,
and they have a forward, Miguel Gonzalez, who is an absolute beast.
I think their back line is a real vulnerability that UNLV can exploit. UNLV's 7th in the nation in scoring this year, I think.
Yeah.
7th in the country in scoring, averaging 2.4 goals per game. Seattle is ranked 135th in goals against. They allow 1.41 goals a game. So I think there's a weakness in there that UNLV can exploit in their defense. And with all the scorers UNLV has, especially Bernal, I think they're in good shape as far as just matchups go with Seattle. Utah Valley, they beat number 21 Denver earlier in the season, and they tied Seattle, right?
Yeah, they tied Seattle last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. Speaking of goalies, I expect Harding to have a big game. Like I said, he had that 3-game skid that raised his goals against average sky high. Take those 3 games out where they lost to Irvine, Gonzaga, and
Tied with Detroit?
No, They lost to Irvine, Gonzaga, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the 3rd game where they allowed a couple goals. But you take those 3 games out, and his goals against average is .64. He had the longest shutout streak in the nation at one point, even more so than the number 1 team in the country in North Carolina at one point before that 3-game stretch. So he's no push. I mean, this kid's the real deal, and they want an NCAA tournament berth, and they know what they have to do. So I expect them to come out focused and fired up. And that I talked to him yesterday. Like I said, that Gonzaga game still eats at them. That eats at them every day because they should not have lost that game. So that's a game that they'd love to have back because if they had that game back, I think they'd be 7-1-1 right now, or 8-1-1 right now.
Yeah.
So that's a game that they love to have back, and I think that even fuels them more so going into this weekend against Seattle and Utah Valley.
And go ahead.
No, that was good. I was just going to say that last year Seattle was here and Seattle beat them 2-0, but then UNLV bounced back and went pretty much 1-4 out of the next 5, tied the other one.
Yep.
So, I mean, the
And
Seattle
they
game
had a
is-
heartbreaking loss in the first round of the WAC tournament.
Yeah, so this Seattle game could potentially launch UNLV to another big run towards the end of the year, much like last year.
If you can win this game, that's huge. That's
It's
a
in
statement.
Seattle.
That's a statement win for everyone around the conference. If you go up to Seattle and knock off the top dogs, the projected winners of the conference in Seattle, the conference is going to take notice. Everyone's going to, okay, UNLV's the team to beat now.
And the games, this is the toughest game they have left on their schedule, guys. They have Air Force at home. They have UMKC at home. They have Bakersfield at home. All 3 teams that are tough this year. Harding admitted to me yesterday, it sucks going to play up in Air Force and in Colorado Springs.
Oh, yeah.
It is tough. The jet lag hurts them. The altitude hurts them.
And it's
the
cold.
style and it's cold, exactly.
Yeah.
And the style of play that Air Force plays in the cold weather is just not a good look for, or not a good matchup for UNLV. So this is the toughest game they have left on their schedule. It really is, because the rest of the tough teams, they get at home, and they get Grand Canyon again to close out the year in Phoenix, which they should wax them again, because Grand Canyon's just not a good team. So, like I said, they get Bakersfield at home, they get Air Force at home, and they get UMKC at home. They don't have to make that travel. The last long travel games they have are in Texas, I believe.
Yeah. Incarnate Ward.
Incarnate Ward. Yep. and
So
Houston
Incarnate
Baptist.
Ward isn't the next toughest opponent.
I hope
Just
not.
the travel.
Yeah.
But
the travel other than that,
yeah, they don't have to travel again after the Seattle game. It's to Texas, and that's it. They stay within the Western region after this, and that's really good news for them.
And then one other thing I wanted to mention, it's funny, for each sport I have these things that, like UNLV, for football, the opening drives, I mentioned it like 3 weeks ago, and then it just keeps continuing. The other thing for the soccer team is the set piece goals.
Yep.
And of their 3 goals in their 3-0 win against Grand Canyon, 2 of them were off set pieces, the final 2. The first one, Bernal kicked the free kick, it hit off the post, and then Samara headed it in.
Irvin Samara,
Yeah, and then the second one, I'm not even going to try to say that guy's name, Kavonska?
Jason Kambonska.
Scored off
Jason
another free
Kavonska.
kick later.
Sorry if you're watching this. Jason.
These set pieces win soccer games at any level of soccer. And UNLV, I tried to look up stats on how, like, percentage of goals on set pieces. I could not find it in college soccer, but an inordinate amount of their goals are coming off of set pieces, which shows good coaching and good discipline. Because you can run plays sort of on the fly, on the run, but the only part in soccer that I think the most structured part of soccer, and the part where coaching shows up the most, is in set pieces.
Yeah.
And they have been outstanding at set pieces. Not only have they scored in them, they haven't allowed goals from set pieces, other than penalties. But penalties I don't really consider that. I mean,
Right.
you're going to score on a penalty. Yeah. So if they can keep that up, they're in good shape. That wins you soccer games.
Yeah. There's still a lot of season left. They have 9 games remaining. Don't let the Irvine game or the Gonzaga game deter you from how good this team still is. The Irvine game, they just came out and they were flat, and they were overwhelmed. They were overmatched. They played a style that they usually don't play, where they kept everybody back and had just 2 forwards up and left the midfield wide open. And Irvine has a good holding midfielder, really, really good holding midfielder. So they were just overmatched in that game. Gonzaga, everybody slips up once. Everybody has a slip-up game.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I wouldn't be discouraged, and I'm not discouraged. I think they're going to finish out the year very strong. So,
Well, if they win one of these games this weekend, they will have already passed last year's win total.
yeah.
I think they will.
That's
Yeah.
pretty huge. Seattle game is tomorrow at 5 o'clock in Seattle, and then the Utah Valley game's on Sunday at noon in Orem, Utah. I've never heard of that city before. Orem. Orem. It's interesting. All right, well, let's move on to women's soccer, guys. Again, another kind of a rocky start to conference play for the women's soccer team, Jordan, but they kind of bounced back on Sunday. But the game we talked about last week with Fresno State had been outscored 33-1.
33-10.
33-10. We're still giving Jordan a hard time for that. But a team like Fresno State being outscored 33-10, the one thing you don't want to do is give up an own goal in the 29th minute and that'd be the only score of the game, but that's what UNLV did.
No, we talked about it last week, how Fresno State, how bad they were, and hopefully they could put away Fresno State early so they could get some rest up for Sunday. And unfortunately, it was the own goal that did them in on Friday night. They outshot Fresno. Fresno didn't play well at all. They only got 6 shots off in the whole game. We got 11 off. So I think with that own goal coming in early, I don't know. It's got to do something to your psyche and something for your team, especially to a team that you're better than in Fresno. So that was probably their worst loss of the season. Fresno did actually beat Reno, I believe, on Sunday, so they're on a nice little 2-game win streak. But tough way to start the weekend. Obviously, Sunday they came back with a much better performance, probably their best performance of the year, I would believe. Obviously, they scored 3 goals. They beat San Jose State 3-0, scored their 3 goals in a 6-minute span. So, I think they scored in the 44th minute, and then their last goal was in the 50th minute. Yeah. So, hopefully that Sunday will just propel them into a big weekend they have coming up. Obviously, with defending Mountain West champions.
You talk too much about high school.
I know, right?
Defending Mountain West champions coming in to play UNLV this weekend. But first, no. So, they're 2-2 in the conference right now. They sit in, I believe, the seventh spot. They've got they sit in seventh spot behind Fresno with 6 points. San Diego State already has 12 points after 2 weekends in the conference. So they're rolling right now. They've got one vote to be in the top 25. San Diego State's a very good team. They're experienced. They got a very good coach who's been there for a while. It's gonna be a tough road for UNLV. But first, they got New Mexico coming in. Who
Here we go.
they're like
they're decent.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're 3-4-2.
1-1-2 in conference.
These teams just tie. UNLV's only had one tie. A lot of these teams are tying a lot.
I'm assuming New Mexico probably plays just backs into a shell on defense.
Yeah.
With how many low scoring games. And
Oh,
how
that's
many
what their
ties they
record
have.
indicates.
Yeah.
Parkland
Well,
does
yeah.
a lot.
I mean, they've been outscored 16-14, so they're playing close. These games are all tight. They're getting off. I saw 16 shots a game, so they're getting off a lot of shots. UNLV has to, like we said, a lot of the year UNLV's been on the offensive, not having to play defense a lot. This might be one of those grinded out type of games. Especially the UNLV showed that when they do get in a slump, it's hard for them to score. Like I said, I don't know if I said it last week, but the one player I thought they need to really step up was going to be Denali Mernon, and she has. She scored another goal this week. I think she leads the team with 3 goals. I think 3 goals, 4 assists. She's got 10 points, so she's the one that I thought was going to have to step up, and she's starting to do it. So, like I said, with 7 games left, though, it's tough because you're still looking for that scorer who's going to put you in that spot. I mean, they're playing a lot of these 1-0 games. It's tough, especially with San Diego State coming in, who's a very good team. Their 2 losses were against Michigan State and San Diego, but Colorado College, a team that we thought, I mean, they are very good. A team we thought that could compete with San Diego State, they just blew them out 3-0. So San Diego State's a very, very good team. That's going to be a tough time for Coach Shaw and those girls. And it's on a Sunday, which is always tough. I mean,
And they've looked really good in conference, particularly. Like you said, their losses were against really good teams, but they're 4-0 in the conference, and they've outscored their opponents 11-4.
Yeah.
So they haven't even.
Well,
no teams have even competed.
they
with
beat a
them.
ranked Michigan team 3-0. So
San Diego State is really, really good. It
Yeah.
seems like they're good in every sport.
They have
it's
really
just a hot
good.
spot.
They have really good women's programs.
Yeah.
Softball's good. Soccer's good.
Being in San Diego doesn't
Yeah.
hurt you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sure.
Kind of go back to New Mexico for a second. You were looking at the stats. I saw one there. Their opponents outscored New Mexico 16-14, but 10 of those come in the second half.
yeah.
So they're allowing a bulk of those goals in the second half. So if those games are tight, usually probably New Mexico's either ahead by a goal or probably tied, and they're letting one slip away if they're allowing 10 goals in the second half.
They're not great on defense. I mean, they're 250. New Mexico is 251st in the country on defense. So I don't think it's so much that they're good at
Well,
defense.
when you say
I think
it that way,
I think they just kind
sounds
of.
pretty
I think they.
alarming.
I mean, there's a ton more soccer programs, and it's not like football. There's only 125. There's like 600 or whatever. But they're not. I'm not. I think we kind of miss. I don't think they're good at defense. It's just they just play all their guys or all their girls back.
They're
They
very
park the bus.
they're similar to UNLV when you look at the stats. Almost they're getting off a lot of shots to New Mexico's. They've gotten off 50 more shots than their opponents this year. So it's going to be whoever. I mean, UNLV takes a lot of shots. New Mexico takes a lot of shots. It's whoever can take advantage of those. Maybe UNLV's gotten lucky with a couple penalty kicks this year. And like we said, most of their shots have come from inside, just a loose ball, and it just gets in. This could be a big weekend for UNLV on either good way or really bad way. Because if they come out of it 0-2, you're looking at the final 6 games of the season, I believe. After this weekend, they've got
5 games left.
5 games left.
4 of them on the road.
And if you start off 2-4 in conference with no Mountain West tournament, it's going to be. There's Mountain West tournament, but
That's only volleyball, man.
yeah,
Which is still stupid.
and softball. There's no
But
tournament.
yeah,
And
they've,
softball,
they've
so-
got 5 games left, and 4 of them are on the road after
Yeah.
this. Out of
And
5.
they still have San Diego State coming in, then they got to go to Colorado College, who's sitting in second in the Mountain West. So it's not an easy finish for them. They got Colorado, Boise State, and then Reno, Utah State, and Air Force. So this could be a big weekend to decide how UNLV wants to finish up the season.
Huge weekend.
They started off well. They're sitting at 7-4-1, 2-2 in the conference. But I think, especially with San Diego State, I don't want to say they're going to lose that game, but I think San Diego State's just a very good team. I think New Mexico game is going to be a really big key to see how this team finishes.
I think that's as close to a must-win as you can get
Yeah.
at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you don't want to count the San Diego State game as a loss, but they're fighting uphill for that one. So if you lose to New Mexico, then to finish your home stretch, which you expected to kind of boost to finish that would make them 1-4? No, 1-3 in that home stretch.
Yeah.
And then you got to go to College Springs, which is altitude, which is cold. Then you got to go to
Air
you got to go to which is also in College Springs.
Yeah.
And then you got to go to Logan, Utah, which is also in the altitude, which is also cold. And then you finish the game up in Reno, which isn't any warmer. So really, really tough road games after this. This New Mexico game, I think, is a must-win.
I think it's a huge game for the coach and the team. Hopefully, I think, like I said, I think Denali is going to be the one, but someone's going to have to step up because there's no reason they should have lost. Even if they did give up an own goal, there's no reason they shouldn't have scored any goal. They should have been shut out by Fresno State. Fresno State's just, they were a bad team.
Yeah. New Mexico actually beat Fresno State, I think, in their last game.
So, no. Like I said, it's a huge weekend for them. Friday night, if you guys don't want to go see UNLV probably get destroyed by Fresno State on the football field.
Nice.
Travel
Nice
half
segue.
as far, and you might actually see a win.
And it's
Right.
on campus.
Yeah.
It's on campus. So Friday night at 7, they play New Mexico, and then San Diego State, huge game Sunday at 1. That'll be huge. If they can pull the upset in that, then who knows where they can finish off this season.
Yep.
But
That 4 road games in 5 games.
It's
Looks
tough.
daunting.
yes,
That's what makes these two games so important.
yeah.
Huge. All right. Well, that is at 7:00 on Friday against New Mexico, and then 1:00 at home against top of the conference San Diego State on Sunday. Was that 1:00?
1:00.
1:00.
That's strange that they would schedule that game at the exact same time as the football game.
I was thinking that
There's one Friday football game all year, and you schedule it. Well, one home Friday football game all
So
year.
who
you
gets
schedule
more
the
attendance,
exact same
soccer or
time.
football on Friday?
If we're doing over under 12,000 at the soccer game,
I'm taking the over. I would gladly take the over and bet my house that I do not own, but will one day.
Now UNLV's like last, 1, 2, 3, 4 of their last 5 all sit in top 5 in the Mountain West right now.
Yeah.
tough.
So build your positioning. This is huge.
Yeah.
That loss to Fresno State kills them, though.
Kills them.
I mean, at least come away with a tie. Don't let an own goal be the reason why you lose that game.
Yeah.
Stuff happens though, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing in soccer. Like one play, there's no sport. No sport is like soccer in that one play can just a huge upset. All you need is one play, and it
Yeah.
completely changes the game.
Yeah.
Well, that huge weekend for women's soccer, huge weekend for men's soccer as well. And for football, well,
Huge Friday night for men's football, trying to get that homecoming win, trying to
being serious?
win their last 7 games, go to a bowl.
that would be the most.
Hey, I almost kept a straight
I was-
face. If Danny would just not said anything, I almost got it.
I will say this though: if UNLV somehow comes away with this bowl, I will write a book on this season. No
We
lie.
should do a movie.
There's nothing to write about.
like
They won
Green
one
Light.
game.
No, I'm talking
No, I'm
about
saying if they were to win, if they were to make a bowl,
Oh,
if they make a bowl this year,
we'll
I
do
will
a
write
screenplay. Nah, screw that. We will act
in
the season out.
in
They should put us
Shakespearean
in the
form.
movie.
Yeah,
They should put like the podcast in the movie.
yeah, they
Oh
should.
yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's good. I'll still write a book. I'll still write a book. You're giving me something to do over winter break.
All right,
But I think that's it. Unless you guys want to talk about Bobby Howe for another 30 minutes.
No,
I don't mind.
I do.
All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Randy's like, get me the hell out of here.
You guys can't tell watching this, but it is 475 degrees in this room.
It really
It's
is.
unbelievably hot.
I rolled my sleeves up for that very occasion.
It is
hot. hot.
I'm still sweating.
How many views?
Next podcast, you're gonna see like laptops like lifting up and hair just flying back because I'm gonna bring like an industrial sized fan in here, put it right behind the camera.
We'll just cut out
Like
a
one of the
spot
fans
for
that you
the
put on like a swamp boat in like
Yeah.
Louisiana. Like take one of those fans and bring it in here.
It's as big as
That's
this,
what we need.
Big as
I
this
It
room.
is so hot in this room.
Welcome to the edition of the podcast.
That's what we need.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of WBL Sports Podcast. Thanks, you guys, for watching. We'll see you back again next week. We'll talk about all this same stuff. Hopefully, UNLV gets a win. We'll actually talk about something positive. But if not, we'll talk about Bobby Hauck for another 45 minutes. But until then,
Basketball
next-
show coming soon, right? Basketball podcast will be coming soon.
Oh crap! That's
Yes.
right. Basketball.
Showcase is in what, a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah,
A week?
A week from tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Good eye. And Lady Rebels Rise and Shine is also
Yes.
a week from next week, I should say.
There is sunshine at the end of the tunnel, guys.
There it is. Basketball
There-
season is near. Rebels fans.
God, I thought we wouldn't have that conversation for a while.
We won't. We're not going to have the conversation. We're we're teasing the conversation.
I just thought it was funny last year. We were talking about like, oh my god, football. We don't want basketball sucks. We need football to keep going. And now we're back to the old, the old anecdote. It's like on a cycle. Next year, football will go like 11-1. And we'll talk about basketball, how much they suck. No, we won't. No, we won't. If you don't understand sarcasm, leave now. But thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week. And for Jordan, Randy, and Jesse, I'm Danny. We'll see you guys next week.